So okay, so we have this method here, and then let's work with it now. So in main, what I'm going to do is I'm going to now create the array that's going to hold the values that the user is going to fill. Yeah, it's going to basically hold the values that the user is going to type. Okay, it's going to be a double array. Now again, okay, actually it's good I changed the name, so it doesn't matter. All right, so I'm going to create an array. Let me close this a bit. So main is where the program is going to run, basically. And so I'm going to create a double array, and I'm going to call it actually rainfall stats. So I guess this is where I should say that the name doesn't matter, like I explained before. Then this rainfall stats here in the class doesn't matter that this has the same name too, because they're in different functions. Okay, and they're in different methods. Well, in the first place, they're in different classes, and so they don't see each other. They have limited scope. The scope of this rainfall stats array is only in main. Okay, the scope of this is it's just in the class, and so they don't see each other. It doesn't matter that you call this the same as that name of that array. Okay, so now we have rainfall stats, and I'm going to initialize. I'm not going to like initialize it with values, but I'm going to set the size. Okay, so rainfall stats. This is a variable that's going to hold an array of doubles. But now I'm going to create the array that it's going to represent in memory. So I'm going to say new double array, but I'm going to set it a size, and I need to type the size here, right? It's basically 12. I can, right? But let's just, since 12 is going to be constant, let's define a constant. Let's define a final variable. So 12 is going to be an integer. So int, well, since it's going to be a final value, let's just say final int, and let's call it month in a year. Well, it's an int is the final variable, so let's just make it all caps. So month in underscore a year. So final int month in a year, it's going to be equal to what? 12. And then now let's change this slot over here to month in a year. And so we are creating an array called rainfall stats, which is going to hold doubles. We are setting the size to be equal to 12. Okay, because this is not going to change. Okay, and once you set the size of an array, you can't change it, and so it makes sense to actually define it in a constant. And then now we have the array with a size of 12. All we have to do is fill it, and we have a method we just defined here, or we declared here, to basically fill an array. All we have to do is just give it the array. We've defined it already. It's going to go through the array. It's going to take values from the user. It's going to convert the value to a double and store it each time. Store it in an array each time. So it's filling the array pretty much. And so all we have to do is just call the method fill with arrays. We have to just call it fill with arrays, and we know fill with arrays except in an array. And we have the rainfall stats array here, so we can pass it in this method. And so fill array with user details is basically going to ask the user each time to fill this rainfall stats array with the details the user types. And by the time this is done, we have an array filled with details. Okay, so now we have an array filled with details. Okay, so now we are going to work with a class. Okay, we know that a class. Well, first of all, let's create an object. Let's create a rainfall class object. And so to do that, I'm going to type in rainfall, the name of the class, give the class type variable a name. I'm going to call this rainfall data. That's the name of the object. This is the name of the class. I'm creating an object from this class. I'm calling it rainfall data. So this is going to be, well, first of all, this is, when you do this, it's just like creating a variable of int called number. This is the type, and this is the name of the variable. You can think of this as a type, and you can think of this as a name of the variable, right? But the only thing is, Java is going to know that this is not one of the primitive data types. It's going to know that, wait, you're trying to create a variable here, but this is not an int, it's not a double, it's not a character. It's going to say, okay, wait, okay, so what you're trying to do is trying to create a variable of this type. So it's going to look in your folder to see if it can find a rainfall class and in this case it's there. But if it's not there, then we'll complain and say, hey, if you want to create a variable that's going to hold a rainfall, it's going to hold a value of rainfall, it's going to hold something of rainfall type, then you have to have it. In this case, we have it, so it's not going to complain. So it's going to say, okay, you have the rainfall class, so I'm going to reserve this class type or reference variable to hold a rainfall object. It's going to reserve it now, so now it's just reserved. It's just reserved. So now I need to create, this variable has been created and waiting to store a rainfall object. So I need to create the object. So new rainfall, and we know that the rainfall constructor accepts in an array. We know that. So we have the array ready. By the time we fill the user detail, you fill the array with the user details, the array has been filled. And so we can pass in that array, the rainfall stats array here, because it's been filled already. And all what this constructor is going to do is it's going to set this rainfall stats array in the class to the size of the array which we just passed into it, which is 12. And then it's going to go ahead and copy each element in this rainfall stats array to the rainfall stats array here in the class. Okay, in the class. And then now from there on, anytime we call one of the methods in the class, it's referring to basically this, right? Okay, so we have an object here, so I don't want to confuse you here. So, all right, so we have the object here. Okay, and this is basically we're going to represent. So this is basically going to be an object from the class, and this object basically has this field, this array populated with the array we just passed into it. And so now we can call methods on the rainfall data object. Okay, you can. If you think about it, we're almost done, because now all we have to do is just display info. We display this info, the total rainfall, average rainfall, month with the most rain, month with the least rain. And so let's use the JOption pane. JOption pane show message dialog. Okay. And the JOption pane show message dialog takes in a couple of arguments. Well, first of all, it takes in, I'm going to type in null, and null is basically going to, so show message dialog is going to show a message on the screen. So null is basically going to center the dialog box on the screen. Okay, and then the next argument I'm going to type in is basically what is going to be displayed, okay, on the dialog box. I'm going to leave this space blank for now. Okay, this is basically what's going to be displayed on a dialog box. I'm going to leave it blank for now. We can type in a whole string and say the total rainfall, right? Or basically just total rainfall is colon, and we give the value and all that stuff, right? But let's just leave this blank. I want to form a string because I want it formatted. Okay, so I'm going to form a string formatted, and then later on, once we have everything formatted, we can just pass it in here. So I'm going to create in main, I'm going to create a variable. It's going to be a string, and I'm going to call it user string output, or user. I'll just say user output, or user output string, I guess. User output string. Okay, so once we have the object, okay, with the array given to it, now it has a copy of it kind of has its own copy of this array. So I can now basically call it. So, well, first of all, let's start creating a string in user output string. And so user output string is going to be equal to a string, but I want the string formatted, so I'm going to call the string.format method, and then I'm going to start formatting the string. String.format is going to first of all take in your string, okay, basically takes in your string, okay, your format string with format specifiers in there, and those format specifiers are going to be replaced with actual values, and those values are going to be displayed, basically they're going to display the way you specified it to be formatted. And so let's do this, and it will make much more sense. And so the first thing I want to display is the total rainfall for the year. So I'm just going to say total rainfall. I'm going to put a colon here, and then I'm going to create a placeholder, which is basically my format specifier. This whole thing is my format string. Everything in double quotations is my format string. But I'm going to create a format specifier, which is basically a placeholder. Something is going to replace it, so don't worry about it for now. But something is going to replace it. So I'm going to type in a percentage F. F stands for a float. Because a percentage F means a floating point value, which is basically a decimal. Floating point value is going to replace this this placeholder. But both your percentage F means that this is a placeholder and something is going to replace it. I'm not going to go ahead and format it extra. We'll do that later on. But just know that this is a placeholder and something is going to replace it. And what is going to replace it is basically the second set, basically the arguments that we type here. The argument, okay, or arguments, plural, we specify here. So, but let's finish creating the format string first with format specify. So total rainfall is going to be equal to this. F means floating point value is going to replace this, right? And then now let's go ahead and create a new line character, \n. Anytime you type in the \n, anytime the interpreter sees the \n, it creates a new line. The / starts an escape sequence. Basically, when you type in the \, it's not printed on the screen. It's a special command, right? And once you type in the / it's expecting right after it one of the special escape characters. There are some special escape characters, and n happens to be one of them. So anytime you type in the \, it's not printed on the screen, but it's expecting an escape character. And then basically it's going to do what that escape character does. So in this case, when an n follows a \, a new line is created. So a \n together is one. They have to be together. And when the interpreter sees that these two are not printed, but then it creates a new line, meaning the position is moved from where it's at the moment to the next line. Okay, and anything that comes after this new line, anything that comes after it is displayed from that next line going. This is when it's being displayed. So this \n basically creates a new line, and you see how it's basically displayed. You see it. Okay, so now we're on the next line, and what I want to now display is the average monthly rainfall. So I'm just going to say average monthly rainfall, colon, and I'm going to type in the placeholder now as format specifier percentage F, meaning a floating point value is going to replace this. Okay, all right, and I'm going to create a new line again, \n, and I'm going to type in the next thing, which is going to be, well, let me I know I'm going to exceed this line over here, right? So let me break this line into two. I'm going to break it right here. I'm going to break it somewhere here. I'm going to say, I'm going to close the string here, concatenate it with the beginning of the string here, right? And then I can break it here by hitting enter. So let's continue. Okay, so the next thing is going to be the month with the most rain, right? So month with most rain, and I'm going to put a colon, percentage F, and a new line character, and then month with least rain, colon, and I'm going to now specify a placeholder, percentage F, for a floating point value, and then I'm done with that. Now I need to specify the values that are going to basically replace these. So the first value I type here is going to replace the first placeholder. The second value I type here is going to replace the second placeholder. The third value I type here is going to replace the third placeholder, and so on respectively. And so the first value here, which is our total rainfall, we have our object here, so we can call it the method. So we can just say, let me hit enter here. We can just say rainfall data dot. We have a method here in our class which is get total rainfall, so we can call it get total rainfall, and that's basically going to replace this percentage F, and it's going to be displayed when the string is displayed. All right, and then the next value, like I said, is going to replace the second placeholder, and then respectively. So next value is average monthly rainfall, and so I'm just going to call, I'm going to call rainfall data dot get, average rainfall, right? So get average rainfall. Is that how we named it? So a comma and then next one. We called it get average rainfall. Okay, yeah, we did. And then rainfall data dot get, which is going to be our third thing we are displaying, which is month with most rain. Just percentage. That's not going to be a percentage F, by the way. I'm sorry. Month with most rain, we know it's an integer, right? And to represent an integer, you say percentage D, meaning an integer is going to replace this value. Okay, percentage F means a floating point value is going to replace this. This means a floating point value is going to replace this. But the month with most rain, we know it's an integer that's going to be returned. And so we're going to say that an integer is going to replace this. And an integer, you specify percentage D. Same thing with this too, percentage D. So meaning an integer is going to replace this. And that integer, which is for the month with most rain, is going to be get, that method we created. So get most rain month. So rainfall data dot get most rain month is a method. And then I'm just going to make a copy of this. Separate these values with commas, by the way. Then I'm going to type in rainfall data dot get least rain month, and that's also a method, and that's going to replace the last value here. And so once I have this formatted, it will be stored in user output string. So I'm going to make a copy. I'm going to now display it in the job option pane show message dialog. So the job option pane show message dialog takes in now it's going to be sent to the dialog box on the screen, and this is what's going to be displayed on the dialog box. And lastly, when you're done, you have to call anytime you use the job option pane, you have to call the system dot exit, okay, and pass in 0. And that's because anytime you use the job option pane, an extra task is created, and basically that's called a thread, okay, and a thread is started, and this system.exit will basically terminate that thread. Okay, system.exit will terminate that thread, and passing it 0, this 0, okay, is going to be returned to the operating system. And when the operating system gets a number 0, it's an indication to the operating system that this program runs successfully. It runs successfully. Okay, so this 0 is passed. This 0 which is being passed is going to be returned to the operating system. It's going to be returned to the operating system, and then when the operating system receives this 0 value, it's normally an indication to the operating system that this program runs successfully. Okay, and so that's that. And so now we are done. Let's run this and see if we can see if it works, fix any errors, and see if it works. I'm going to compile this, and like I said, I'm going to create this, save this in the same folder where I have my class, right? And that's here, so they can see each other. Save this, and let's see if we have any errors. And we don't have any errors actually. Okay, so and that's good. So let's run this and see if we get correct values first of all. So you can see it's working. It says please enter rainfall figures for month 1. Let's start with the values 22222 and see if it's correct. 22222, the total rainfall is going to be what? 24. The average is going to be 24 divided by 12, which is going to be 2, right? Month with most rainfall, they're all going to be 1. Actually, they're all going to be 1 because they're all the same, and it's going to take the first one it gets. Least rainfall, most rainfall. So 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2. And 12, that's 2, hit OK. And we can see it's working because look, total rainfall is 24. Average monthly rainfall is 2, right? We will format this later on. Month with most rain is 1, month with least rain is 1. You can see it's working, right? Let's try different values. Or before that, we know it's working, so let's format this. Okay, so this is a format specifier, and the reason why we do this is because we can specify it in a certain way. So when these are basically replacing these placeholders, they are displayed that way. And so I want them formatted, the total rainfall I want it formatted to 2 decimal places, right? And the way I do that is I specify the precision in between the percentage and the F. So 0.2 means I want this value. You specify in between the percentage and the F. 0.2 means I want this value formatted to 2 decimal places, okay? If I wanted it formatted to 3 decimal places, I would say 0.3. I want it formatted to 2 decimal places, so I'm saying 0.2. The same thing for this value. And the rest, it's just integers, so I don't want them formatted anyway. Okay, so compile this, run it. Let's try intentionally setting minimum and the minimum values for specific month and see if that's what's going to happen. So this is what I'm going to do, right? Let's still use values 222 to make sure the total adds up to 24. Make sure the total rainfall adds up to 24. The average is going to give us 2. We know that, right? But then let's set some of the values. Let's say maybe a certain month to 1 and a certain month to 3, and then those we'll see if it's working. We'll see if our month with least rainfall is working, and we'll see if our month with most rainfall is working. So I'm going to type in 2 for everything, right? So January 2. February 2, month 3 2, month 4 2. Let's set month 5 to 1, right? We'll make sure everything is actually adding up to 24. So month 5 is going to be our least. Set it to 1. Month 6 2, month 7 2, month 8 2, month 9 2. Let's set month 10 to 3. So that's going to be our month with the most rain. So month, I think 5 was our least, right? Okay, so 5 is going to be our least, and then 10 is going to be our most. Okay, so let's just keep that in mind. 5 is going to be our month with least rainfall, and 10 is going to be our month with most rainfall. So set the rest to 2. Everything adds up to 24, so we should get total rainfall of 24, average of 2, month with least rainfall, which is 5, and month with most rainfall 10. So hit OK. We can see it's working perfectly. So total rainfall is 24, average is 2, month with most rain is 10, and month with least rain is 5. And because we have our method, we can even change it to return the most rain if we have to, because we have the value, we have the most rain, we have the least rain. We can just return it, or if the program requires it, just change your return type to double. And then now, because we have our month returning as integers, 1 for January, 2 for 5 for the actual month. Okay, we can basically write a switch statement or a case statement, or even create another array in our class, map it out to the name of the month before we display it, so it says not 1 but January. You can do that. But as far as we are this question is concerned, we've done it. We've done it. We have our class and we have our main program, and it's working fine. All right, if you have any questions, please comment down below as always, and I'll do everything to respond to them as always. Again, I'll do all the questions in the program, starting out with Python, starting out with Java. Eventually when I starting out with C#, and basically any programming set that I start, I'll finish it. And also, I am teaching the Learn Java. I haven't done a video in like a couple of days because I was having problems with my PC, but I'm back. I'll continue. I'm continuing now, and so watch those if you want to learn Java. And I'll also be starting other programming languages, lots of them. Okay, lots of programming languages, and I'll be teaching all of them. And there's basically a lot more, for this channel. So, thank you very much for watching. Again, take care of yourselves, and have a good day, have a good night, have a nice time, have a nice sleep. I always say that. Take care of yourselves. Much love, and I'll see you next time with the next video. Okay, next program. All right then. Bye bye.